after yesterday's ruling, what occurred to me, and what always occurs to me in these instances, is when the cameras leave and the stories are no longer being written and the international press goes, there's still a family, there's still a little girl who's never going to hug her father. Um, Mourning and loss don't end because of trials. Mourning and loss doesn't magically no longer become a thing because, time has passed. It's a living, breathing experience to deal with someone who was important to you that's gone. And whether that person was taken by violence or cancer, which is certainly violent in and of itself, or anything else, I always thought that was really important to look at in the context. Is that no matter what happened, and Clay, I've said this on the show. I always thought that Derek Chauvin was going to get convicted. I always thought that. I was like, this is a makeup call, right?
Mm.
But I think what's important, and there have been people who push back on me about this, and you know how much I care about that. Uh, the level of profanity that I would like to use with some of the emails that I got yesterday. But what I saw yesterday was white supremacy in our justice system saying, okay, hold on, this is our line. If we go any further, then we have absolutely no excuse for what we do. I wasn't happy. I wasn't thrilled. I didn't feel a sense of relief. Um, it was an example of what it takes for a Black person to even be acknowledged, to even have their existence acknowledged. Yesterday wasn't justice, and yesterday wasn't even accountability. Accountability, whether you're apologizing to your friend, your coworker, or a significant other, is I'm sorry, and I'm going to explain why I'm sorry, and then I'm going to try and make an amends. What is the state of Minnesota doing to make amends for George Floyd's death? What are they doing to what is that police department going to do to make that family whole? And you know what? I would give back every single body camera and document or whatever it is in the world if Tamir Rice and George Floyd and Trayvon Martin and Sandra Bland and Breonna Taylor were alive today. So that's how I'm feeling. This is a day where I think people are justified in calling in Black. I am impressed that you were here. It's probably because you wanted to celebrate the 5th anniversary of Prince passing, which is another loss. Um,
Yes.
so it's a day, man. It's a
You know
day.
what's interesting? I saw some of the backlash or heat you got for your comments, basically saying what you just said here, and I wasn't surprised. But here's one of the things that I think about. While there are some people who are happy and relieved, and they feel like, wow, I'm very happy that this happened. I find that there are other people who are angry that you're not jumping up and down, who are
Yeah,
angry that you're not, saying, "Oh my God, hip hip hooray." And it's fine if other folks are doing that, but there's this idea that every single Black person in America, you should be grateful. And if you aren't jumping up and down and saying how joyful you are, if you're not in a state of a jubilee, something is wrong with you. And that's not cool, because we always say we aren't a monolith. We
yeah,
always say that. So there are some people who are very happy, and they feel like they feel relieved because they were so shocked that
yeah,
this happened. That's great. But we have to also have space for folks like you and other folks who are saying, you know what? Of course, we're happy he didn't, he wasn't acquitted. Of course not, right? Um, but we're still allowed, we have ownership over our feelings and our emotions and the realities of where we are in this country. So I was pissed off that I saw people who were mad at you that you weren't jumping up and down and saying, "Hey, this is it. This is the moment." And this may be a bad analogy, but forgive me. It
mm-hmm,
almost reminds me of when President Barack Obama, is elected, and it's like,
mm-hmm.
we did it, we got it. I felt like I'm gonna celebrate when we have the 10th or 15th or 20th, Black president,
Right,
right? So with
right.
this is excellent. My God, for George Floyd's family, of course, but I'm gonna feel a lot more relief if we have the 10th, 20th, 30th, 40th police officer convicted of an on duty shooting. Because I've interviewed Tamir Rice's mother. I've interviewed Botham Jean's mother.
Hmm.
I've felt talking to them that kind of trauma. So for me, it's just complicated, and we have to allow space for it to be complicated.
Well, and that's very well stated. And the other thing, Clay, that we have to open up is that, and I'm really trying to not just use incredibly profane language this morning, but I don't have to effing perform for you. We don't have to perform for an audience. We provide news, we provide analysis, we occasionally provide opinions and entertainment, but I don't have to perform for freaking anybody. I don't have to be sad for anybody. I don't have to be happy for anybody. I can feel whatever the bleep I want to feel. And and there's a way in which, as you've said, that we are sometimes expected. And again, these are positions of honor and authority and obligation, right? Like, not everybody gets to do what we do. So I always take that into consideration. But I don't owe you my tears, and I don't owe you my joy. And how I choose to express how I think of a particular situation really doesn't get moderated by the sort of raving mob's desire to see blood and tears. I think there's a line, and again, you've talked to many of the mothers of the movement, mothers who've been victims of these young men and women who have been killed. There's a line at which presenting their pain is meant to empathize, and then there's a line where it moves over into it's performative for an audience that wants to soak that up and feel better about themselves, that wants to see crying Black mothers because somehow that means something. I think of Nancy Pelosi's Freudian slip yesterday, where she said, we want to thank George Floyd's sacrifice, I think it was. She slipped
Sacrificing
it,
his life.
sacrificing his life. And it's like, no, that was not a sacrifice. He was a regular dude who got murdered by a cop. And why does it have to require sacrifice for us to see this system occasionally consider us to be human beings? And I want to read this. I want to read something. I've never done this before, but I'm going to read some of this sort of mentality. This person sends me an email. Did you not think that this was a moment to talk about what this verdict meant to George Floyd, his family, his friends, community, and the world who has watched this from the time of Floyd's death and throughout last year up until this trial? Could you not give this moment, quote, to the people, all people who found themselves invested in this ordeal? It is my opinion that you made a big mistake, and you should apologize to the family and others who found your comments offensive. Well, first off, I'm not apologizing to anybody. I don't have any reason to. And second, what greater empathy is there? And this isn't to make myself special, but what greater empathy is there than to recognize how much death is required for us to see a minimum recognition of our humanity? And literally at the same time, my fear and dissatisfaction with the result, because unless it resulted in fundamental changes in policing, I was saying we were going to see more death. I don't want to see any more George Floyd's. I don't want to see his family in pain. I don't want to see anybody's family in pain. And what happened? Within 45 minutes of that
I
ruling,
was getting ready to say that. Yes, we
Ma'Khia
have
Bryant. So
Ma'Khia
everybody who
Bryant.
jumped on me about that and said I was being cynical, there you go. That didn't make me happy. That doesn't make any of us happy. Nobody wants to be right when it comes to police violence. We want to be proven wrong.
Yeah.
And a 16-year-old girl gets shot within 45 minutes. I mean, I'm still unclear at the time, but within 45 minutes of this ruling.
And then people dismissing it because she had a knife. There was another incident last week that I covered. Matthew Williams, he had a knife as well. Police killed him, left him in his apartment in Atlanta for allegedly for some hours, whatever the case. You got to be the perfect victim. All the stars must align. If it's not an
and
A
it's got to be
plus,
recorded. It's got to be recorded. The stars have to have the yeah. You got to have the right angle. It's got. I mean, I don't get. Like I said, I don't perform, but Ma'Khia Bryant. I mean, that kid's making TikTok videos 24 hours ago, talking about hair and makeup, and calls the cops because she was afraid because there was a fight outside and she was getting bullied. And I've seen fights broken up. I've seen fights broken up at fraternity parties. I've seen cops break up fights at bars.
Mm-hmm.
You
I've seen
open
people
up,
with weapons in their hands, and they've managed to break up a fight. I've seen it. Drunk,
yeah,
out of their mind. People, yeah.
you open fire within 15 feet of a teenager and other people. And I knew I took a little bit of a Twitter break today outside of, acknowledging Prince. And today is the 21-year anniversary of the release of Love and Basketball.
Yeah, that's it. That's true. Yeah.
uh,
I'll play you for your heart. Like, don't get me started. Don't get me quoting.
I actually know people who've done that for engagements. Like it's ironic. My friend who lives up in Minnesota, her and her husband, she played basketball at UConn, and she was a very good player. So of course, when her fiance at the time was like, "I'll play you for it," I was like, "He tried that because he wasn't gonna score. Like he can't beat you. You played at UConn." But yeah, it, I knew that this was going to be a day where a bunch of bad faith arguments were made that this cop saved somebody's life, blah blah blah. There's Kyle Rittenhouse, every single one of these mass shooters that they find that they managed to bring in, these guys are carrying AR-15s and AK-47s. You managed to bring them in. You couldn't stop a kid with a knife. You couldn't shoot the gun in the air. You couldn't shoot at the car. You can't break up two teenage girls. You didn't save nobody's life. And I know that's it's going to be spun. Just like I as confident as I am, as confident as I was in saying that I thought that Derek Chauvin, that I thought that he was going to be convicted. I'm just as confident that the other police officers who aided and abetted what he did are going to walk. I'm just as
Oh, you
confident.
believe they're going to walk?
Oh, I think they're going to walk. I think they're going to walk. I think especially the two rookies, like the one in training and the other who was like a rookie, they're going to say, "I didn't know. He was my chief. He told me what to do."
I'm
think
thinking they're going to take
off.
a plea deal. I'm thinking
Well,
they're
they
going to go
might
for
do
a plea
that.
deal. Okay.
They might plea, but like if they go to trial, I don't think they'll get convicted. I don't. Just like I doubt there will be a conviction with the woman who shot Dante Wright.
Oh, Kim Potter. There'll be no conviction.
Yeah, I mean there was no trial with Breonna Taylor.
Right.
And the core of that case is you walked into the wrong house and killed somebody. You walked into the wrong house and killed someone, not even the person who shot at you in self-defense. And none of those people are going to be held accountable. I mean, Amber Geiger is what, 7 years, maybe? She got?
I mean, she got 10 years, but she's already filed an appeal. All that crying and sobbing and getting the Bible and getting a hug from the judge, she already filed for an appeal.
Yeah. I've said it, I'll say it repeatedly. I am in favor of abolishing policing as it currently exists and starting again from scratch. It is possible in this country. It's not something that is beyond what we can do. This country had, slavery for 400 years. The entire economy worked from it. We got rid of that. And again, I don't think there was anybody out there who was arguing for slavery reform. It was kind of abolition. And I don't think you can reform a really problematic
Oh my gosh.
system.
That is so funny. That is actually really true. that they did it.
Yeah.
They weren't talking about we got to reform this. Well, actually,
right.
In Jersey,
we need to train overseers better. We need better training for overseers, and then we'll have less problems on the plantation. Come on.
This is a random fact, but in Jersey, they had this thing called they had the 1801 Gradual Abolition Act, where you would gradually get freedom. But then you would just turn into a servant who didn't get paid. That happened in 1801 in New Jersey. The gradual abolition, I don't have it right in front of me, but it was early 1800s, bizarre law. Yeah, just really strange. So that's a really good point. Yeah, that's a really good point.